Thank you. How's everyone?
What's up, man?
Thank you all for being here. John Morgan made it, folks. Oh.
Fresh out of quarantine?
2 hours ago, yeah. Good to be. It's amazing how much of a mind warp that is, right? Even though you're in a beautiful 5-star hotel, can mess with you if you let it. But I'm glad to be free as a bird, Johnny.
Does it end up being like just the ultimate study session for you, though? Is that how you get through quarantine?
And I think I said this to you guys last time, right? It's a play-by-play guy's dream, and you know that all too well. You want to lock my analysts in a room and make them prepare for 48 hours? I'm all for it. But my quarantine workouts did not go all that well. We shut those down after like 25 minutes. So yeah, all my fighter cards are done for January 16th, and came here a few days early to do the ABC show, which was not initially scheduled. So I think for a lot of us on the live production crew, we're just looking to get this first one in the can and get this week started.
I was going to ask you, I mean, 2021, like, your return to network television. I mean, I know you know, industry leader and all that good stuff, and pay-per-views are massive, but network television, is it still special? Does it give you a little something extra?
Absolutely, and I think ABC really rings true with a lot of combat sports fans, as special as the Fox deal was. You know, ABC is boxing, it's wide world of sports, it's historic, and certainly for a guy who cut his television teeth, as I did in Bristol, Connecticut at ESPN, it's nice to be under that banner again. I think my big question is, how did this come together? I don't know. And when are we going to be on ABC again? Maybe when we're not going head-to-head with an NFL playoff game, right? So I think we're going to do a good number, but it's exciting. I'm not getting my gold Wide World of Sports jacket, unfortunately, but maybe next time. Maybe next time.
Talk about fans being back in the building. I mean, for you, I mean, we've watched this whole thing progress, right? Like, you've gotten used to the new normal of not having crowds.
Yeah.
Like, is that going to change the dynamic or the feel for you?
I can't wait. I plan to go address as many of the crowd members as I can before the show to thank them for spending the money and to tell them to try to make noise as if they're 3 people. But I think this atmosphere is such that it's going to be a loud crowd regardless. And I can't wait to have that support. It's not a crutch. It's not something we lean on, but it's definitely a performance enhancer for a play-by-play guy. You know, when Jan Blachowicz won the light heavyweight title, and I think the call was something like, Poland, your guy got it done. It'd be nice to have some support there, especially when a guy wins a title. So for a fight of the magnitude of Holloway-Kattar or McGregor-Poirier 2, I just feel like we need fans, and thankfully they'll be in the building, masks or otherwise.
Talk about Holloway-Kattar. I mean, I know, like, more than just X's and O's, you like to break down the story of it as well. Here's what I find interesting, right? It seems like Kattar's the guy on the rise, but he's the older guy.
Right.
And Holloway's the, hey, is he still around? Is he still not the same guy? So, I mean, is that the story that you're seeing, is like where Max still stands versus is Calvin the real deal? Yeah,
I think that's an interesting storyline and certainly part of the narrative. You know, Calvin Kattar has been saying for years, put some respect on my name. You know, I turned pro in 2007. He did go dark 2014, 2015, did not compete at all, and I think that has maybe contributed to his longevity a little bit, but this dude's been a pro for almost 15 years, so I think this is a huge opportunity for Kattar. But I did say after Max Holloway was essentially hosed against Alexander Volkanovski his last time out, it's going to be hard to beat Max in that next fight. I just thought he made so many good requisite adjustments for that Volkanovski rematch. I certainly thought he won that fight, and I think it's going to take Calvin Kattar's best performance over 25 minutes. You know, championship experience and 5-round territory is not anything new for Max Holloway. He went 25 hard with Dustin Poirier, so I expect big things from Max Holloway, and certainly as a lifelong Bostonian, very curious to see what Calvin Kattar can do with the showcase.
I was going to ask you turning up the Boston a little bit, or do you have to keep it settled down?
Oh, we'll bottle that Boston for sure. But it's exciting, you know, really not since Kenny Florian have we had a guy who has legitimate championship aspirations. And now we have 2 guys in Rob Font and Calvin Kattar, and plenty of other guys that Tyson Chartier is developing under that New England Cartel banner. So we're excited. All I can tell you is that if Calvin Kattar is ever able to break through, I will go to the mayor's office in the city of Boston and make sure that he gets the duck boat treatment like the Patriots and the Red Sox and everybody else get, because he would certainly be deserving of that treatment, you know.
I want to ask you about the co-main, Matt Brown and Carlos Condit. Obviously, everybody's excited about that. We talked to him yesterday. Matt kind of threw out there, yeah, this might be my last fight. Who knows? Carlos revealed it's the last fight on his contract. So have you spoken to those guys yet? Have you gotten to feel at all that you know, these veterans might be at the end of their run?
They certainly didn't want to go down that road with us. We had our fighter meetings yesterday. Matt Brown, as many of you know, contemplated retirement during the training camp for Diego Sanchez in 2017, but was so thrilled with the way his body responded that obviously he's been able to prolong his career. I asked him about his active schedule, and he said, well, it hasn't been all that active, but I looked at December of 2019, May of 2020. He's in a much more active schedule than he has been recently. Condit, I thought it was interesting. He said he has more enthusiasm for this fight actually the third time around, and part of that is because the hay's in the barn. He feels like he's had 2 training camps for this guy. He's worked on things that he believes are holes in Matt Brown's game and didn't feel like he had to really rework all of that stuff. So these guys are just good eggs, man, and fathers, and I'm just excited to see what they can do. It's crazy. Matt Brown was such a huge part of those Fox shows, it felt like, and now, of course, kind of fitting that when we make our ABC debut that he's getting that co-main event treatment.
Nice. Last one for me. I just want to ask, 'cause I know you do as much research as anybody. Stories on the undercard, the prelims, are there names maybe that are new to us, or just a great story you unearthed behind the scenes, something that that we should key on or that you're dialed in on?
It's a good question, Johnny. I mean, for me, it's always exciting to talk to the UFC newcomers, especially a fighter like Jocelyn Edwards, who 10 days ago was on the outside of the UFC looking in, and now she's making her UFC debut. It was interesting because she had an LFA title fight a few years ago, 2018, against Sarah Alpar, and her coach cut her in the back before the fight. Not ideal, right? So she ended up losing a split decision. Had she won that fight, she would have already been in the UFC. So I'm excited to see what she can do against Wu Yanan. But the story that jumps off of this card for me, undeniably, is Santiago Ponzinibbio. Might be the best welterweight in the world right now. He's won 7 in a row. But man, it was the arm injury, the freak arm injury on the Ultimate Fighter Brazil Season 2, and now the staph infection and bacterial issues. That man has been through hell. Lost his rankings, so he's got a serious point to prove, and you know how tough the leech is, but I would not want to be locked in a cage with Santiago Ponzinibbio on Saturday night. Of that, I can be sure.
I think Max Holloway minus 135 is fair odds. Kattar plus 115.
So it's hard for me to get too predictive, as you know, because I'm calling the fight, but I do believe Max Holloway should be the favorite, and I think it was a little bit more pronounced 5 or 6 days ago, so perhaps that suggests that they're getting some money on Calvin Kattar. As you guys know, they're trying to set a betting line that will command two-way action, right? The more bets they can get on both sides of the equation, the better the sports books would do. But most cappers that I have talked to, just being candid, they feel like Max Holloway at minus 135 is pretty juicy, just given the fact that he's been north of minus 200 for most of his featherweight fights in the UFC.
And then outside of the 2 main events on Wednesday, Saturday, outside of this card, are there any other fights that you're looking forward to?
Gosh, I mean, it's an embarrassment of riches, right? I mean, certainly the Michael Chandler debut is interesting for me. He was at Fight Island, obviously, back in October, didn't get the chance to compete. And I'm curious to talk to him because I kind of get this sense that this Hooker fight isn't like the dream sequence for him in terms of an opponent for his UFC debut. And for Dan Hooker, you know, he's been really hard on himself for that Poirier performance. I think we all as fans gobbled that fight up, but he felt like his performance defensively left a lot to be desired. So I know that's probably an easy answer, but that one jumps off the card. And for JoJo, too, against Jessica Eye, just to see if she can break through and finally get a chance to fight for the title. So a lot of meat on the bone, and you know, my focus is on January 16th. I try not to look too far ahead, but we're excited for the 23rd for sure.
When you're doing this many events in such a short stretch, how does your preparation differ than normal? I know on Wednesday you're doing the desk, and then you're doing commentary for the other 2.
It's not ideal, you know. I mean, I have a lot of respect for the NFL guys that do 17 straight weeks. You know, a lot of our play-by-play guys have never even done a back-to-back, and I think that's just the nature of our beast. There's so much that goes into the preparation, and if you just want to play a numbers game, right, say 26 fighters times 3, 75 fighters, if you're giving everybody an hour, that's 75 hours, that's 2 work weeks, right? I try to give every fighter an hour, and in a back-to-back situation like this, with another show sandwiched in between, it's impossible. So I'll do the best I can to turn the page to Chiesa Magny on Monday, but I got to start my UFC 257 cards on Tuesday. So I'll be sort of double dipping a little bit. And this will be the most challenging fight week that I have ever gone through. To have other things on my plate during a pay-per-view week is something that I've never experienced. So I guess you could judge me after the fact. But my anxiety, as I've said many times before, is all in the preparation, right? Like you think, oh, maybe a little performance anxiety calling a Conor McGregor fight. It's all in the preparation. Once I get to fight day, the anxiety goes away. But what kept me up last night is the fact that I haven't started prep in UFC 257, and it's fucking 9 days away, you know?
When you say anxiety, do you get nervous?
just about the preparation. I get excited to perform. You know, sometimes when I'm working the desk, because I'm an old guy now and I've been on a television desk for almost 20 years, I wish I could get some of those nerves back, because I think they can enhance your performance to get those butterflies. Certainly when I'm doing a pay-per-view open, I have something going on in my body. I don't know if it's adrenaline or nerves, but thankfully, when you get older and you get sort of the necessary repetitions, you're able to channel it in the right way. But, you know, I remember when I did my first television audition at ESPN, and I couldn't sit still, man. I was like, I thought they were going to send me back to radio right away. But thankfully, I have the experience that I can lean on at this stage of my career.
And this is your 10th year with UFC, right?
Crazy, man. My hair went straight from black to fucking white. We went right past gray, you know. But yeah, coming up on, it'll be 10 full years in October, and man, has it gone fast. You know, I spent 6 years at ESPN, and it felt like it took forever. And this decade has just ripped off the calendar for me.
Yeah, because I remember talking to you for the first time when you did a dry run for Shogun and Henderson.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, when I first started, they had me audition with 5 different color guys. Rich Franklin was one of them, Frank Mir, Ken Flo, obviously, Stephan Bonner. They wanted to get Randy Couture at the time, but for whatever reason, that didn't materialize. But yeah, you were probably like 18 at that time, right? Couldn't drink at a bar back then. But yeah, it's good to still be going, trying to earn it every show, you know.
We often hear about the fighters talking about feeding off the energy of the fans. But what is it like for you guys? And we're talking about the fans being back in there. Is there a noticeable difference in your performance when they're there?
I don't know if there's a difference in my performance necessarily, but there are a few logistical things that I have to think about. If you're doing a pay-per-view open in a Conor McGregor fight setting, you're competing with a crowd. So when I do my open, I have to really ramp it up so that I can sort of not be drowned out by them. But I just like having the support for a climactic moment at the end of the fight, because in this setting, we weren't laying out at all, and lay out is a TV term for basically shut the fuck up. And in this setting, we weren't really laying out at the end of a fight because there's no natural crowd sound to let bleed in there. I think the one thing the fans are going to miss is that we didn't even have to go to a corner camera to pick up that corner audio. And now with fans in the building, you're probably not going to get that sound, so you'll probably see us go to those corner cameras a little bit more often. But I can't properly describe how excited I am to have that support. I know for some of my higher profile broadcast partners, they're maybe going to miss that they could just walk to the bathroom uninterrupted. But certainly for a guy like me, I can't wait to not only have the crowd in the building, but just to go over and thank those people, because it's been a year, man, you know?
You said you don't really get the nerves anymore, but you sort of do get some sort of energy. But do you still, like the rest of us, get that big fight feeling? So you like, it's a Conor McGregor fight. Do you still at the beginning of the night go, shit, like it is big time? That's
what it is, and I think you nailed it, right? And I oftentimes will say on a broadcast, and I think some people are sick of me saying this, but there's nothing like the tension of a UFC main event or a championship main event. I guess the closest thing that I could compare it to would be if like the Patriots were playing in the Super Bowl. My appetite is non-existent, and I'm just anxious because my team is about to compete in a setting that is hugely important to me just as a fan. So I get those nerves just because of the magnitude of the sporting event, but as soon as they touch gloves, you know, you just focus on the job, and I got a lot of things to worry about, you know, so I try to keep my focus there.
If there's one fight that you've called over the past 10 months that you wish you could have had fans there for, to help with your call or help with the climax of a fight, which fight would it have been?
It's a great question. I certainly would have liked Petr Yan to be able to have a crowd. I think any of the newly crowned champions, Jan Blachowicz, Davison Figueiredo, all these guys won titles in a really major way and in an environment in which they didn't quite have that support. I mean, I know I talked about Blachowicz earlier, but could you imagine what that moment would have been like for him if we were in Poland or in an arena with 22,000 people? So I think it's the title fights more than anything else that I wish for those athletes that they had a different backdrop. And certainly for my friend Daniel Cormier, right, to have his final fight in a tiny little 25-foot octagon at the UFC Apex certainly was not ideal for him. So that one comes to mind as well.
Do you ever look back at stuff like the Masvidal knockout and think, thank God there were fans there?
Oh, no doubt about it, man. Absolutely. For sure.
Do you think any fights benefited from having no fans?
Fighters for sure. I think for Dominic Cruz to come back after 4 years away and walk out with no crowd support, I think that really hurt him. Now, he may disagree with that, but I feel like certain athletes have really benefited from competing in this atmosphere. Dustin Poirier, cool as ice, right? Talking to me and Michael Bisping when he fought Dan Hooker. So I think some athletes have really benefited. Jan Blachowicz, when we sat down in our fighter meeting, and I'm sure my bosses would agree with this, we sat down across from that guy, we knew he was going to win the fight. I mean, he was just so confident and so in the moment and just so ready to go. I think it goes both ways, but I think a lot of athletes who have competed in this setting prior, like Carlos Condit, thinks it's an advantage that he's already competed here on Fight Island, and I guess we'll find out Saturday night.
Do you think it added to the Khabib's retirement, that it was just silent when he was speaking?
Yeah, I think there's something to be said for that. You know, I think we were all caught off guard by that, including DC, right, who didn't give us any inkling that maybe that would have been the end. But I think maybe it helped me navigate that moment a little bit. And, you know, my producers, the best in the business, kind of laid back and weren't in my ear as I was trying to navigate it, because I saw him start to take his gloves off. I'm thinking, what's happening? You know, it's 29, Khabib. It's not 30 yet, you know. But, yeah, I think you're onto something there that maybe that made that moment a little bit more powerful.
No bets or tattoos on McGregor this time then?
No tattoo bets this time around, but I can assure you that 209 tattoo bet will not be the last. We got to get creative, though. I was thinking maybe do something for Calvin Kattar. I don't know if I want like Kattar mania across the chest, though, necessarily, but the Game Bred tattoo is the next one. I don't know how it's going to happen or if it's going to be on my neck or not, but that one's going down. We'll see. I don't know if we could maybe a little makeup, but yeah, Game Bred tattoo is the next one for sure.
I mean, we talked about it earlier. You've been here 10 years in October. What's the most, influential fight that you've been able to call on you, or the greatest, I guess?
You know, it's really hard to say because I feel like I'm shortchanging athletes when I answer this question. December 7th, 2013. Bigfoot Silva and Mark Hunt in Brisbane, Australia. I remember thinking after that fight, I hope people back in the States saw what we just watched, because that was the best heavyweight fight I had seen at the time. But the easy answer for me is Thug Rose, right? Rose Namajunas ending longtime strawweight queen Joanna Jędrzejczyk's run, and the manner in which she did it, the magnitude of that show at Madison Square Garden. I was still cutting my teeth on pay-per-view. I feel like that's the biggest moment and the most shocked I've ever been in that booth. With respect to Rose, obviously. We knew she had a shot. We just didn't expect it to go down like that. So maybe a cop-out answer, but that's always the first fight that comes to mind in terms of the most special moment of my UFC career to date.
A lot of great fighters have translated to great co-coms as well for you. Max Holloway was even saying he would yesterday.
Yeah.
Any guys in your mind that you think would be a natural fit?
Well, I would love to see Bilal remember the name Muhammad get an opportunity. I just think he has a lot to offer. I think he's a guy who is married to the game. He watches all 41 UFC fights. He watches every single prelim, and I also think he's got a comedic side to him as well, so I just think Bilal would have a lot of value. Max is great. I would love to see him get an opportunity, and he's got the profile that certainly would make for an easy transition. He doesn't like to watch the fights, so I think that's his only issue is, kind of got to watch the fights if you want to do that job. But I would like to see Max get the opportunity. He certainly has a lot to offer, and his personality was jumping out of that Zoom call yesterday in our fighter meeting, so we'll see. But I know our lead producer, Zach Candido, has given a lot of different fighters opportunities over the years. Walt Harris just got an audition, which I felt was long overdue, but Bilal's the guy for me, and I'm hoping that he gets a shot.
The guys who seem to do this more and more, like I was talking to Michael Chiesa the other day, and he said that it's enhanced his fight IQ, like so much. It's gave him a different outlook on the game. Have you noticed that with these guys, and maybe like seen a change when they go in there, whether it's Dominic Cruz or DC or whoever?
Yes, I mean, I think Dominic might be a little bit reluctant to say that it has helped him because he's such a student of the game and he's been doing it so long that I don't know if he would take that bait, but I think almost everybody else would. I know it's helped Paul Felder immeasurably, and oftentimes when we're sitting down with fighters like Santiago Ponzinibbio, we sat down with yesterday, and he says it's been a benefit for him doing all the Spanish commentary, and just for him being around the sport, I think, is helpful, being in the atmosphere, and I think it'll actually stands to reason that it could help him on Saturday night. But I don't know how it couldn't help you. I know Dan Hardy has been very forthright about how much it has helped him. I don't know how you could argue that being around the sport and being forced, being paid to watch incessantly film, fight after fight, I don't know how it couldn't help you. Cool. Thank you, guys. Great to see y'all.
Thank you.